everyone, I'm LonestarK, and today we're going to be making a box art cover for a game called Galaxy Fraulein Yuna Final Edition for PlayStation 1. Now this game was not released outside of Japan, and it never received an English translation, but some fans have translated it, and I'm going to be creating an English cover to go along with that. Now here's what the original Japanese box art looks like, and what we're going to be doing first is I'm going to create a logo based off of the title screen that's in the fan translated English version of this game, but instead of using the stylized Yuna signature that's on the title screen, we're going to be going with an official Yuna signature that can be found on some of the official artwork. So first thing we'll do is we'll add an alpha channel and we'll start to erase some of the background colors that's around this signature. There's a few ways that you can do that. I'm going to be using our color dropper tool, and then we're going to be using the color to alpha tool. But as you can see, it's not going as smoothly as we'd like it because that background white isn't true white. It's got slight purplish kind of tint to it. And so when we use our color to alpha tool, it's still leaving remnants of different colors behind. So I think instead what we'll end up having to do is just select by color, and then we'll use the eraser tool rather than use our color to alpha tool. Okay, now that we have our signature, I'm going to use this title screen just as a base to help us recreate it. We'll use that in the background and we'll add our new elements on top of it. Okay, now that we have basically where we want our signature to be, I'm going to create a bevel effect on this to try to imitate Yuna's signature in the title screen, which has kind of a lighter side on the left and a darker side on the right. And what we're going to be using is we're going to go to the filters and then down to decor and then add bevel. And this bevel is kind of blocky, which I don't like the look of that. And I think it's because of how we pulled our signature off from our original image. It wasn't a very good pull. We just used our color select tool and it erased the colors around it. But I think what we're going to have to do this time is actually color to alpha. And we're going to do it a few different times because the color that's around the signature is not exactly white. It's got just a slight purplish tint to it. You can see it's still giving us remnants of the slight purple. So I'm just going to try to use our fuzzy select to select what's left, and we'll try to erase all that. We're having to go back and do this so that there's more of a gradual edge to this signature, so that when we add the bevel later on, it's going to be more of a gradual bevel and not have those kind of blocky shadows like on our first attempt. Now we've added our bevel to it, and you can see the difference here. So our beveled one's on the left and our original image is on the right. And I'm just zooming in here so you can see how it adds this extra kind of shadow on the right hand side, and it gives a little more depth to our signature, which is what we want. It looks pretty good. Now we're going to go hold off on doing the bevel until after we go ahead and rotate and scale the Yuna signature and get it to where we want it. Okay, so we've got our signature basically where we want. Let's go ahead and add the bevel. And to do that, we're going to go up to filters, then decor, and then add bevel. And you can see what that does. It just gives us a slightly darker kind of side to the signature on the right and slightly lighter on the left. Gives it a little more depth to it. Alright, so we got our first element done. Now I'm just gonna match up some text here, and we're gonna add this tactical adventure. I'm just using the color dropper tool to match that pink color, and just going through my fonts here to try to match the font fairly close. Doesn't have to be perfect. And the next one we're going to do is Galaxy Fraulein, and with this text it's not all one color, it's a gradient. It goes from like a white to like a baby blue kind of color. So first we're going to create the lettering in white, and then I'll show you how to add the gradient later. Okay, to add the gradient, what we're going to do is we're essentially going to convert this text to a path. And so we select text to path, and then after you do text to path, then you do path to selection. That's going to outline it, and then you color that in with your paint tool, and then you use the gradient tools. You just do foreground to background kind of gradient, which we have selected the white and the baby blue. And with that gradient tool, you just click it and then drag. You want to try to make it uniform, so you got to make sure that that line that you're pulling is perpendicular, so that the gradient's going to be even all the way across the letters. And to create this gradient line, first I'm just going to create the line using a path, and then we're going to use the option stroke path. And to create that gradient effect, I'm just going to use our gradient tool one more time, but with two different colors. We're going to use the dark blue and that lighter blue, and I'm just selecting a box here. And you can see it's very important that line that you pull for your gradient is perpendicular, because if it's not, then it's not going to be a uniform gradient. It's going to be kind of lopsided. You can quickly see that it's not going to work. So I have to pull it twice, because it's got a gradient on top and a gradient on bottom. And then we're going to add to this. So from that dark blue, we're going to have another gradient to where it's just going to fade to clear. And you can see how difficult it is to pull a straight line. Alright, I think that's good. We have all our text, and I'm going to recreate these stars in these little blue orbits. Now, unfortunately, GIMP's elliptical tool is very limiting on what you can do with it, since these ellipses are slanted. Because of the way GIMP's set up, you'd have to create it non-slanted and then kind of slant it later, and it's never going to work out right using the ellipse tool. So what I'm going to use is I'm just going to use our path tool, and we're just going to create these curves. And then once I create each one of these paths, we're just going to do a stroke path to create that blue line. So what I'm doing to create these curves is you create these little nodes, and then from each node you can pull out these little square arms from it, and then you can adjust how it curves using those little arms. So after creating each one of these little curves, I just click the stroke path button, and that turns the path that we've been working on to where it actually colors in the pixels along that path. Alright, now we've got the second ring done. I don't like how the rings terminate around our lettering over here, so we're gonna cut them a little more flush by selecting a box around it and erasing a portion of these blue rings. Next up, we're gonna start creating these little stars, and we could do it like this with all the different points, but I think it's gonna make a little cleaner stars if we do it with less points. and it's going to leave the middle portion of our star kind of open. We'll have to go back in and color the middle portion in. So it's going to create a little bit more work for us, but the star is going to look a little more uniform. And I'm going to move this little pink star so it's not behind the Y. Now what you can see is Yuna has like a yellow outline on the title screen, so we're going to add that to our signature. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to select all the empty space around our signature, and then we're going to invert our selection, and then we're going to grow our selection by just a few pixels. And we'll then color that selection, and it's gonna just create just a yellow outline just outside. And 2 pixels wasn't enough, so we increased it a couple more pixels. Now that looks closer. Next up, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna create the text that says Final Edition, and this text is some sort of serif text. So I'm going to go through my fonts here to find one that matches fairly close. And unfortunately, creating these little dashes is not going to be as simple as I would like. And I could go in here and manually create these lines, but I think I'm just going to get rid of the lines altogether. We're almost done. I think we're going to try to recreate this little heart, and that'll be that. I'm just going to use our path tool to create this heart, fill it in with a color. Alright, we have our path, and then we just do path to selection. I'm filling this in with pink color that we have pulled off of the image. And to give this a little depth, we could try to use that bevel tool again, but it's not going to give us enough depth. So we're going to use a lighting effect. I'm going to paint it a darker color, and we're going to use the light and shadows, the lighting effect, and you can adjust where your light is coming from, as well as different properties of how it glows and the brightness. So we might have to kind of fiddle with this a little bit. And I am getting some good lighting, but I'm not getting the same kind of shadow effects that I want on this right side. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink my selection so I can leave that right edge darker, and then throw the lighting effect on the rest of the heart. And then we'll have to manually blend that darkened edge with our one that we've put the lighting effect on, because it's a little difficult to get this lighting effect to have that gradual kind of darkness along that right side. So we're just gonna use our blur tool to blur that darkness a little bit. And I'm not really getting the effect I really want, so it's going to take a little trial and error, kind of get the kind of blend I want. I think if I adjust the size of my blur brush, I don't want to blur it to clear, it'd be a little too much blur. I think that's going to be as good as I can get it. Okay, so that's going to be our logo. We're going to add that to our box, and we're going to use this PlayStation box as our base. And we're going to use this official artwork. I'm going to flip it and scale it. Now we'll scale our logo here. Now we're gonna have to create an outline around this so that there's a better contrast from the logo lettering and the background, so it stands out. You can see it a little easier. But let's go ahead and work on this NTSC logo up at the top. Now for PlayStation 1, there's several different NTSC standards that you'll see on these boxes. You got NTSC J, which is for Japan, and then you have NTSC U, which is for US only, and you have NTSC U/C, which is United States and Canada, and then there's also NTSC C, which you might think is Canada, but it's actually for China. But for our box, I'm going to create one with just the U for the United States. And I don't care for the ESRB rating, so we're going to change this. And I'm just going to keep the T, but I'm going to make it translated. This game was translated by fans. So instead of content rated by ESRB, we're going to put translated and localized by fans. I'm just going to try to match up with this lettering as best I can. Now we created a black outline around our title logo, but I think it's going to look better in white. Everything except for Galaxy Fraulein, which if you remember before had our gradient from like white to baby blue. So around that portion we'll keep the black outline, but everything else we'll do a white outline around the text. Our Hudson logo I think is going to be better up at the top, but we're going to need to add a white outline around it so that you can see the text better because of the background colors that's up there. So I'm just going to create a new layer, and then so around our Hudson logo we're going to select blank space around it, and then we'll invert our selection, and then we're going to grow our selection by just a few pixels. And now we go back to our outline layer, and we're going to paint the outline layer white, and that's going to create a white outline around our Hudson logo. And I think we're going to grow our selection just a little bit more to make our outline a little bit thicker. We go to selection, then we go to grow. And it's still not enough, so we'll grow it some more. And I think that's going to be good. That's going to be our completed cover for Galaxy Fraulein Yuna Final Edition PlayStation 1. If you're interested in getting a copy of this box art, I usually upload it to the Launchbox Games database. You can download your copy from there. Okay, well thank you for watching, and please leave a comment or hit the thumbs up button, or share my video. All of that helps. Until next time, bye guys.